In just a moment, we're going to continue with Musaf on page 184. I want to share just a very brief word. I promise, very brief. And when a rabbi says it's going to be brief, you know that means absolutely nothing. But what I wanted to just start with a story, a couple of words. About 10 years ago, in a class on law and ethics, there was a brilliant young law professor who asked a group of students, if you were a part of a real estate firm and you knew that there was toxic waste in one of the properties that the company was trying to sell, would you, stand up and say something? Like, would you go to the authorities on that? And in this law class of about 24 students, how many people do you think said unequivocally, yes, I of course would go to the authorities if I knew that there was toxic waste? Any guesses? Right, so you get the Trivial Pursuit guys here, like it's either zero or all of them, right? No, it's one. One student out of the whole class. And there's no repercussions here. This is just a class. You could completely virtue signal if you wanted, right? And say, oh, of course I would. But even in a classroom setting, these students had they had understood, they had absorbed the sort of idea that being a whistleblower comes with a very, very heavy cost, both for the job and the future job prospects. And I have to tell you why I went out of my way to tell this story. Because 2 years ago, at a bar mitzvah, I quoted the parents of one of our b'nai mitzvah in my Devar Torah, and Leora Eisenstadt said, oh, you've got 2 years to learn about HR law because Benny's bar mitzvah is coming up. And so the professor in this story, in this article, is the mother of our bar mitzvah. And Mike, I looked, but nothing you wrote has anything to do with Judaism. So it's really, there was like nothing I could find. But the Professor Eisenstadt goes on, and she says that this failing of supporting people who want to stand up and do the right thing is a legal failing, and I'll let her explain that over Kiddush, because I read the article and I still don't quite get it. It has to do with socks. I don't know what that is. Okay. Yeah, the three lawyers in the room are chuckling. I promise brief. I'm sorry, I'm back to brief. But it's also cultural. As a culture, we don't support many ways people who are willing to stand up and say what's right and what's wrong, especially when they're a part of that group. And all of us belong to tribes and clans and groups that have something wrong with them. That's just the way it goes. We all have blemishes, and we all feel like if we stand up and question them, we are going to be torn down, we are going to be ostracized, we might even have our futures ruined for us by even asking a question. And I am being honest when I say right now, I'm not speaking about some ulterior thing. This goes for everything across the board: politics, religion, society, family, friends, all of it. We are living in a world where we know there are things that are wrong. We can feel it in our bones. We can see it every time we open the phones and the TikToks and the Instagrams that Benny rightfully warned us about. We know that there are things that are wrong. And it's harder and harder to find a place to speak up and say, I believe in this thing very much, but I'm worried about that thing. I support this group wholeheartedly, but what do I do about this piece that I'm not so sure of? And the rabbis and the Torah have the same problem, and they offer something for us. I'm going to share, and then we'll end. And that's the vow of the Nazir. The Nazirite is someone who says, I promise, for whatever amount of time, to abstain from wine, to abstain from anything that has anything to do with wine, to abstain from shaving, cutting my hair, all of those things, and I forbidden to defile myself with a corpse in any way, right, to be near a dead body for some period of time, and then I will stop. And what the rabbis understand, that this is a vow to basically remove yourself from society. Because if you can't drink wine with people, then you can't be in community. And if you can't cut your hair and you have these, this long, shaggy hair, I wish. If you had, you're not going to be welcome, or you're going to look weird, or people are going to say, oh, that guy's a Nazir coming down the road, like, watch out. And this last piece about not being able to be near a corpse, it's even stricter than a Kohen. It's not even for a family member. One can't if they have taken on the vow of a Nazir. It's really to remove yourself from the world entirely. And as I read it this week, I thought to myself, yeah, there are days where that seems pretty nice. Because there's a lot that I feel like, you know what, just going to take a step back for a second. And we would all be within our rights to feel that way. And it's hard to find the ability to be angry about every little thing, or to care about every little thing, or to speak up about every little thing. And so the vow of the Nazirite is your kind of get out of this card. But the rabbis don't like it. In fact, the rabbis in the Talmud say it's a sin to be a Nazir. And if I have more, find me at Kiddush and I'll show you. It's in Nedarim 19a and Tanit 11b, and I can explain the grammar of it, but just trust, I read it for you, okay? The rabbis don't want people to be Nazirites because we can't all just opt out. Opting out doesn't make the world a better place. Opting out might make things easier for us, but ultimately it's just because we cease to exist in society. It doesn't help the problem that Professor Eisenstadt noted, that we need to support people who want to stand up and say what's right and what's wrong. They do it with love and respect. We can disagree, but we should hear one another. And there's a story in the Talmud, and with this I promise we'll end, that Akiva was speaking to a group of ascetics, monks who are giving up everything, right? And they say, well, we're no longer going to eat meat because there was meat that was offered in the temple, and so we don't want to have meat anymore. We're never going to have meat ever again. And we're never going to listen to music ever again, because there was music that was offered in the temple. Now that the temple is destroyed, no more music ever again. No. And Akiva goes, what about water? There was water that was offered in the temple, and so you should abstain from water forever too because of that. And they kind of say, the point is, there's no end to the tragedies in the world. There's no end to the things that we need to work and to solve. And we can't be monks, and we can't fight all of the time. So the resolution that Akiva in the Talmud comes to says, so here's what you do. When you build a house, leave one little corner of the house unfinished in memory of the Beit HaMikdash. When you cook a meal, eat the meat, whatever it is, but leave a little piece off in memory of the destruction of the temple. So you enjoy this world. You don't abstain completely, but you have to also remember that there is bad and evil and horrible things happening. And only in finding this balance of memory of, but also participation in the world, can we ensure that things will in fact get better. So the vow of the Nazir is one that gives us space, and we might need that when we're coming into the summer, and it's been a long year, and people can take a moment of respite and rest and recharge. It also is something to step away from the world, which might bring you some more thoughts as you come into it. If we take perspective, we might be able to re-enter and be the disruptive Jewish leader, there you go, Mike, that we need in our institutions in order to make them better. So the vow of the Nazir is one that's available, and only you know if you're in a place where you need to take a step back, and that's okay. There's a lot of pain in the world, and you might need to stop feeling it for a moment. But you also are the ones that know when it's time to take a step back forward and step into the world and speak up and make your voice heard in order to make this world a better place. Shabbat Shalom, friends.